Start recording. Hi, this is Ryan Miller. It's been a while since I've been on Periscope, and that's for a reason. And it's related to the title of my broadcast and that bit.ly link, We Are John Galt. And if you're not familiar with John Galt, it's relative to a character or an ideology from Ayn Rand when she was writing Atlas Shrugged. And right now we are in a society where we're at the overlap. If you had a Venn diagram of two circles, one circle being George Orwell's 1984 and the other circle being Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, the overlap of those two with the oppression and tyranny that's happening inside the United States, we're right in the middle. And I wanted to talk about freedom is faith in action. And I'm not talking about a religious faith, I'm talking about an intellectual faith. So let's take it down at a core value. The entire monetary and credit system of the world is based upon the presupposition of the faith assigned to the value of credit. Our faith, our trust, our reliability in a credit-based society determines an economy's survival or collapse. Now, faith is managed by statisticians and actuaries and companies that are traded on the stock market. They are measuring an investor's value of faith based upon investment. And they're able to do this spreadsheet statistical analysis to put a value on the basis of faith. There's a great example of this, that there is a cost or an economy tied to the value of a human life. And I'm not talking about your legal fiction or a straw man. I'm talking about how companies place a monetary value on a life, such as Union Carbide had a value of life of citizens that reside in Bhopal, India, when they had this cataclysmic contamination of that area, that they were able to settle for the community based upon a measured value of life. And that was based upon the actuaries and the attribution of faith and what they could get away with in compensation. So our entire system, globally, economically, is based upon this faith. So let me ratchet it up one more. Our faith in our elected officials, or our faith into the governmental structure, is based upon what we as individuals attribute to faith. Now, we know that the value or trust between the citizens and government officials, particularly our Congress, is way below 50%. I believe it's in the 30% range. Our faith in those officials, in the system, is incredibly low. We do not trust them. However, we continue to re-elect and put in people in position with the notion that we don't trust those individuals. One of the reasons we don't trust them is there is not a level of accountability, there's not a level of transparency, but that system is built with the obfuscation that you cannot see in, you can't peer in. If you're not part of the club, you don't see what's happening in the club. There's a no entrance, there's a no trespassing sign for you to get connected into the political machine. I'm talking about Washington, D.C. Now let's take it even a little bit wider and let's talk about the legal system. The same thing occurs. There's the same kind of club that occurs in the legal system. So the judges, the attorneys, the bar association, and their ancillary relationships with those people in the bar or those people in our law enforcement, that's a special club. So one of the reasons I'm coming live now is to speak to another community. And these are people that I refer to as freedom fighters. These are activists. These are people that are exercising constitutionally protected rights in a lawful manner. And they're experiencing and they're showing people firsthand why there is this disconnect between the citizens and the bureaucracy. They're showing it live real time that they're doing things that are based upon our constitutional protections under the rule of law, and they're being jammed up, arrested, intimidated, harassed, threatened, retaliated against under the color of law. And there's a difference between the rule of law and the color of law. Color of law is unlawful, rule of law is lawful. What I'm exposing through what I'm putting together is We Are John Galt, and the link to invite people to remove the scales is to show us that our faith is improperly placed. It's an illusion, or more effectively, a delusion. It's an ill-placed faith that is not worthy of the trust that we give it. And the only way that we can exercise and protect our freedoms and our liberties is by calling attention to this improperly placed faith in the system. Now, I'm not talking about revolution, and I'm not talking about aggressive. I'm talking about exercising our constitutionally protected freedoms in a lawful way. People use words to describe this kind of activity. Most effectively, people inside the system want to protect the organism of the system. They want to protect the oligarchy, the government. It's a secret society. They want to protect that for their own best interests. And we are outside that circle. So when people operate outside that circle, they are falsely identified using two words, which I'm not going to speak audibly, but I teach on those two words, which puts you as identified as an enemy of the government. Now, it's false, because those words that they are using are actually self-identifying words. The people inside the system do not abide by the laws that are imposed upon the citizens themselves. For example, our taxpayer money is being used to fund senators, representatives, and congresspeople when they are acting unlawful and victims of sexual assault claims. They are settling them out of court, and they're squashing or quashing visibility to what those claims are on our money. So they can act unlawfully and be shielded from visibility outside the law. It should be a matter of public record, but they have the ability to control and manipulate access to that public record. Us, on the other side, we have to be law-abiding citizens, and we will have everything able to be exposed. So that's the dichotomy. So the government entities, the law enforcement, the legal system, the elected representatives, the city managers, the city councils, they're all protected by these confidentiality, non-disclosure agreements to prevent things from leaking out. Plausible deniability is a way to describe it. We're on the other side, that we're obligated to follow the rule of law and be subject to coming into their system of secrecy where we are penalized and repressed. Again, I'm not talking about tyranny. I'm not talking about revolution. I'm talking about let's put reality to our underpinning of faith. So I have been working with what is called the First Amendment auditing community. I have built a tremendous amount of resources to help and support, to take their efforts, their activity, their lawful activities, and showing the public how this faith is unwarranted, that officials are acting under the color of law and violating our citizens over and over and over again. However, the problem is the auditing community is a bunch of individuals that are acting on their own capacity with their own skills, talents, passions, and gifts, and they're taking their cameras out on the street and they're using their words and their knowledge to expose this to various degrees of success. But it's a very closed community. They're using social media tools such as Facebook and YouTube and other things to present this message. But they're victims of the censorship of Silicon Valley, the elite, that certain messages and certain voices cannot get out. get out to the point that John Q. Citizen doesn't know to look. If something were to be taken from YouTube and put into the public domain for media, media will not present it. Media is protecting the oligarchy. Media is shielding the truth and giving you the propaganda and the narrative to protect the organizations, the government, those entities. So media is part of it. So when you have something that is unlawful that happens with the archival and evidence, the fact-based evidence, the objective standard that you can see outside the obfuscation, that's shielding the manipulative narrative, when you see it, you get outraged. And you're like, why are we not hearing this? Why are we only hearing the narrative based upon a police investigation? Why are we only hearing the narrative based upon the government's objective? Why are we not getting into the truth? Because you are not allowed to know the truth. They want you ignorant. They want you indoctrinated. There are videos all over the internet that during a traffic stop, the first thing the officer says to the driver is, give me your license and registration and proof of insurance. That's the first thing they say. So they're getting your personal identifiable information. They haven't told you why they pulled over. If you ask that question, all of a sudden now you're in contempt of cop and emotions start flowing. But the officer goes around to the other side of the car and demands ID from a passenger unlawfully, asks the question, has a utility belt of weaponry, which if you are not obedient and submit to their authority, you're going to get in trouble. And you assert your rights, now you're inflaming that contempt of cop. There is no lawful reason for a police officer to demand ID a passenger of a car. It's a vehicle stop. Now, there may be extenuating circumstances that a crime may have happened and you're driving away a bank robber. I mean, that's like one half of 1% in which a detainment happens from a police officer. Normally, it's policing for profit. So these citizens, the activists, the First Amendment community is out there on the front lines, and they're turning the cameras around and they're showing how me as John Q. Citizen walking into a public office wanting to do a lawful public records request, just because I'm holding a camera, they will deny me service to fulfill my public records request, and they will unlawfully trespass me from the building, and they'll shut the building down. They'll lock the doors. They're supposed to be open for business, but because that camera comes in, now there's cameras sitting on the wall filming me, but because I come in with that camera and I point it the other direction, they freak out. They freak out. They call the police. They make a false report that this person is here to cause harm. You can't turn a constitutionally protected activity into a criminal act. Supreme Court ruled that. So these activists and these First Amendment auditors are out there flipping the script, turning the camera, watching the watchers, and they're all individuals. And they're doing it on Facebook and Streamlabs and YouTube, and they're building their own audience. And I say, they're successful in spite of themselves. They've created their own little niche of people that watch their videos, people that share their videos. They're able to get some scratch and money from YouTube monetization. And their core mission that unites them is education. They want to invest the time to educate public servants. They want to invest time in educating law enforcement. And they ultimately want to educate John Q. Citizen. And they want John Q. Citizen to be aware that the tyranny has hit us. And that our faith in these entities to protect and serve is ill-placed. Now, I'm not saying all law enforcement are bad, nor public servants are bad. But the same desire that they want us to abide by the law, we want them to abide by the law. We don't want police officers to have special parking privileges without a citation, or blocking a sidewalk without a citation, or going through traffic signs without a citation, or not using traffic indication devices and turn signals and speeding, and they're not above the law. There's a class of people in which the Southern Poverty Law Center identifies an attribute of people that operate above the law. That's not citizens. Citizens don't have the ability to function above the law. But those in public service, they're above the law. They're not accountable. They're not held to that standard. And the process protects them. So this group of people has flipped the script. They're turning the camera and they're doing it educationally, but it's very much a narrow community. Those people that want to see this and participate and want to seek redress or address grievances with their government. We Are John Galt was built to bring that community together, to bypass the censorship that is happening, to remove the propaganda, to take the truth and put it in its full majesty of light and allow people to make their own determination as to, is this right or is this wrong? And have that objective standard. And then some auditors are going and getting the camera footage from the police. They're getting the public records of the police call. So you get the other side. You get the auditor side, you get the law enforcement side, and you can compare and contrast. You can read the police report and just juxtapose the police narrative based upon the evidence that's available in the video. What story is being told by the police that doesn't match up with the actual encounter? Now, they can do that. They're legally protected from, it's not called lying according to law enforcement in the courts. It's called about a misrepresentation. Well, in my book, a misrepresentation of facts is a lie. But according to the legal system, it's not when it's specific to police involvement. But you get to see this hypocrisy, this double standard, and draw your own conclusions. But here's the key. The way they're doing it using the social media channels, they're subject to censorship. They're subject to their channels being shut down. And We Are John Galt is off the social media platforms, its own domain. It's got access, hey Nacha, it's got access for citizens. It's got private access for the auditing community. It has public access and it has access for law enforcement. This is all educationally focused to educate everyone, to allow people to participate, provide feedback, collaborate, and communicate. Excuse me. So the link above is an introduction to that. And I am inviting auditors to be part of this community, for their content to be in here, but to help them take their message, instead of a 40-minute long video of them walking down or walking through, and to reduce it to the nuggets that are beneficial to the community, the citizens. Give them the information in the 6-second sound bites in which people can consume, and then make that information available publicly. To share it in a platform. So I am taking an auditor's video evidence of an audit. I'm editing it down to get to the salient points of the encounter. I'm providing a link to the full video so you can see the full video, but I'm reducing it in the sound bites in which people can consume. And then I'm saying, here is the supplemental details. Here's a copy of the 911 call. Compare and contrast that to what actually happened. Here is the police report. The police report doesn't correlate with the objective evidence of the video. And if you are concerned about this, people will make a phone call. But a phone call has no measurable impact. They call it call flooding. Auditors will call into a police station and just call. Some will issue threats, some will say hostile things, some will be very aggressive, and some will be educational. But that phone call has no archive, and it doesn't reach public view. So under the First Amendment, we have the right to petition our government. We have the ability to seek redress, and we have the ability to express grievance. So I take that encounter and I create a series of letters that go out. A letter that goes to the chief of police, a letter that goes to the supervisor of the public servant, a letter that goes to the city manager, goes to the public defender, and it goes to the district attorney. You hit all 5. And I create this letter. And this is the narrative for seeking redress and grievance. But my one letter is ineffectual, and it's swept under the rug. But you can take a copy of that letter, download it, edit it with your own words. It's already got the address information, the email. You can email it to those 5 people. How much effort is that for you to take and edit a letter? I don't care if you use my letter and just put your own signature in it. But let's get volume of people united that are addressing our lack in faith in the system, and we want to hold our government officials accountable. The only way we can reclaim liberty that we have passively walked away from is to be active. Our faith needs to be tied to our actions. So I have lost faith in my elected officials. I have lost faith in my civil servants. I've lost faith in a credit-based system. But the only way I can restore my faith is based upon my own actions with the hope of there being a change. I know that my solitary voice has very limited ability to affect change, as evidenced to all the time and energy I invest in Parent Home. I wanted to help save children from the dangers and horrors of what happened on the internet. And parents pretty much just flipped me off and said, I don't care. It's not my kid. I have no concern about what my kid's doing online. And there's no problems online. Being connected to the internet has never been a problem, and nor will it ever be a problem. Thank you very much, Ryan. Not interested. Screw off. So my faith in trying to help people proactively is very low. So I have to put it on my own shoulders and say, garbage in, garbage out. So I'm going to not put garbage in. I'm going to put effort in the hope of changing. We Are John Galt, if you read Atlas Shrugged, has the ability to affect change. Not as an individual, but a group of individuals. I want to unite the voice around a common goal of education to facilitate change, not the hope and change which came with the previous administration. The hope and change that came from that administration was a further oppression, a decolonialization of the United States. That was the change that I believe Obama succeeded quite tremendously on under the ignorance of the propaganda of the citizens. They just didn't get it. They didn't get it. We have a public that is indoctrinated, not educated. And his efforts I knew would be successful. Dr. J, you're absolutely right. A 20-second soundbite is more than they consume. They got 6 seconds. A goldfish is 9. Humans are 6, so they can't consume. And I'm talking about the First Amendment auditing community is a passionate community. And they're all over the spectrum of human personalities and different levels of education. And you know what? I applaud them all for doing what they do, how they do it. In spite of how I may disagree with some of their strategies, it's irrelevant. They are taking this step and they're doing something about it to call attention to it. Their voice is being silenced. They're being harassed and retaliated and threatened unlawfully by those people in the system. Many of them. While they're doing things lawfully. I want to bring awareness to the public with soundbite information and say, did you see that child that was grabbed by the throat and had a John Cena body slam? An 11-year-old kid at a school was body slammed. I tried to share that information on YouTube and YouTube took it down. They don't want you to see it. They don't want you to see how the tyranny is here. How no-knock raids are a thing. How in 2017, 1,300 people died at the hands of police officers. Yeah, I agree, but that's propaganda as well. It's propaganda. It's very much a one-sided. That what you will never see on Cops or Live PD is a citizen asserting their rights all the way down the line, standing firm on their constitutional protections. You won't see that broadcast on Cops. You may have seen it on an episode of Blue Bloods, but they only take it so far. So I want to help educate people on what our rights are. Know that not everybody is willing nor capable of standing on those rights, because the overarching force is pretty darn scary. It's easier to give up your rights to stand in the face of a threat, coercion, intimidation, and weapons of force that are used against you. You have a right to be secure in your person, property, papers, and effects. So don't touch me. There is no lawful reason for you, police officer, to touch me. When you put hands on me, you are violating me. When you put me in bracelets, you have conducted assault and battery. You are guilty under the color of law because you aren't doing something lawful, but they're never held accountable to that. I want to expose this and do it in a way, in the 20-second sound bites, that we all can share it, that will bypass the censors. So I want to invite people to be part of John Galt. We are John Galt. Go to that bit.ly link. It is set up for visitors. Come take a look at what's in there. There's information specifically to help the auditing community. There's information to educate police officers. And then there's a way for us to seek redress against or file a grievance against our government, not as individuals, but in mass. Our only hope for change is based upon our action. It's like Dietrich Bonhoeffer was talking about what was happening during the Third Reich and what was happening under the Hitler regime. And that they came for the gypsies. They came for the gypsies first. And they started gathering up the gypsies and killing the gypsies, putting them in concentration camps. And he said, but I wasn't a gypsy, so I didn't need to fight for a gypsy. So then they came for the Jews, but I wasn't Jewish, so I didn't need to fight for the Jews. Then they came for the Christians, but there was nobody left to fight for the Christians. They've been coming for us. And there's very few people out there fighting for you. We have people that are off of our continent fighting to help provide liberty and freedom to others, while we give up the freedoms that we have. Whether you realize this or not, progressivism and socialism is giving up your liberty. You are living under the entitlements and the benefits of the blood shed by others. There's a whole narrative that happens inside that secret system. You are not aware of the rights that you surrender under the authority of the judge or the magistrate when you walk into that room. You are under their authority, and their desire as to whether they want to extend you rights or not. And you obey them, or you're held in contempt and you're incarcerated because you didn't obey their orders. They can issue unlawful orders as well under the color of law. So yes, there is a tremendous web of financial influence and power between our legislative system, our executive system, and our judicial system. Is it no surprise that the United States is the largest penal institution on the planet per capita? We're not free. You're given the impression that we have freedoms, but your freedoms are under permission, under the granted authority and approval of the state. You have no freedom. We have given that up. What has been When tea went into the Boston Harbor for a 2% tax on tea, and the rate that we are taxed at today, our complacency, our passivity, our ignorance has allowed us to be raped financially by our government. And we are complicit. I raise my hand, I'm complicit as well. Because the fight is too hard. Take care, Dr. John. Thank you. The fight is too hard for an individual. But when we unite, we have a hope. When I started off talking about the faith based in the system, it's ill-placed. Because we're putting faith in something that is not worthy of our faith. I can trust a thief to be a thief. I can trust a liar to lie. I can trust my government to both lie and be a thief. That's the evidence that I have. Should I trust them to be something other than a liar and a thief? No. I'm delusional if I put that credit in them. As an entity, not as individuals. Individuals, they will balance between their lies and their stealing. But as an entity, that is the culture of the entity. And I want to unite to hope, bring illumination that our freedoms are not completely taken away. More and more, through the states, through legislatures, we are being more and more oppressed through our silence. Through our silence. Money is influencing and our silence is allowing it. I don't have a hope that we can take back and restore. Not in my lifetime. I am of the opinion that our system is going to collapse and break under the burden of $70 trillion of unfunded liabilities. We're bankrupt, but we just don't acknowledge it. They all are. They all are. Man's heart is deceitfully wicked. Humanity as a whole is depraved. So I hold no false expectation that these people are some type of messiah. I understand that they are no better than myself and easily influenced and corruptible. It's in our DNA. I get it. I get it. But for the freedoms that were established through our Constitution, which was a fantastic experiment, Alexis de Tocqueville had predicted the constitutional republics have a lifespan. 200 to 250 years is the life expectancy of a constitutional republic. Until the point the have-nots outnumber the haves. When the have-nots outnumber the haves, what they do is they vote open the coffers. And the coffers come in through austerity measures where the government becomes oppressive and they confiscate and take and they redistribute. And the constitutional republic is replaced with socialism and or dictatorship. And that's history. So our social experiment of a constitutional republic has a lifespan. I don't know if I'm going to make it to see the conclusion of it. I pray that I can have a strategy to protect my daughter to see that. The indoctrination is powerful to influence minds that do not know how to reason and think. So socialism begins in academia. It begins in academia. This is part of the Communist Manifesto strategy being well executed and well planned, and it wasn't meant to be a switch that was flipped in 20 years. It's like the Japanese think generationally. They think and plan generationally. We have been told, don't think generationally. Very simply put, what percentage of the population have actually written out a will or have any level of insurance policy? Back in the 20s and the 50s and the 60s, a larger percentage of the population had actually written a will and had invested in whole life and or term insurance policies to protect the family in the event of some atrocity, some death in the family, protect based upon a legacy. Legacy thinking has been indoctrinated out of the thinking of our current culture. So it begins in academia. And they're sold the benefits of socialism and shielded from the horrors of socialism. They don't expose it. I understand. It would have been beneficial for our parents if they had done that. My parents had done that. And my wife's parents had done that, which set forth the platform for us to investigate why we should do it and when we should do it. And that was a decision that we made. When we were first married, we made a will. And we set up insurance policies at the time of marriage because I didn't want to burden my wife in the event something happened to me during my travels. Make that investment. But anyway, back to We Are John Galt. I want to help build community. Periscope is not community. Periscope is just a platform of communication which has got it's more interesting to be distracted on Periscope, and my kind of messaging just doesn't resonate here. I'm taking this video, it's being recorded, I'm going to put it up on YouTube for those people that may benefit from YouTube, but again, another platform which is censored and filtered and my message doesn't get out. But I'm taking that video and I'm putting it in We Are John Galt to help educate people from these broader views. Do it as a podcast, to share this information and education, to help pull the scales off of people's eyes into the reality of what is happening inside of our society. And we are complicit in our passivity. We own it. We can't point to saying Congress is the problem. We can't point to the police and say they're the problem. We can't point to the legal system. We can't point to the judges. We can't point to the lawyers. We own it. We have allowed this to happen. We cannot reclaim it, but we can nibble away at it. We can nibble away. And it takes us, as individuals, uniting as a group, to start reclaiming what is rightfully our freedoms. I'm just one voice of many. I'm one voice of many. I want to bring those other voices to the front. I want them to get out of the domain of censorship, and I want the public to see it. You need to consume this. Get off Netflix and spend a minute and watch a video of a police officer throat choking a child and doing a John Cena body slam. That is color of law. That is a police state. That is tyranny. That is assault. That child has no ability to defend themselves from that tyranny absent of possibly being shot. That's the reality. But anyway, thank you for listening. I'm going to share this up on YouTube and put it inside of John Galt. And I invite you, go to that bit.ly link, share this, share that link, get as many people as we can. It's free to come and visit. I am protecting the auditing community from the nastiness of the internet. I don't want the trolls. I don't want police retaliating on the auditing community. They need to be protected, but their voice needs to be heard, and it needs to be shared. If you can't hit a share button, then give up your freedom. Give up your freedom. If you can't support the fight for freedom, for the rights and privileges which we had, for those that are willing to fight for it, and the only effort it would take for you is to share, leave the broadcast. Don't need to listen to me. Thanks, Nacha. Take care, everybody.